Joko McKenna, who at the time was 20 years old and a student at the University of Gajah Mada in Yogyakarta, Indonesia, was on his way up into the mountains on his Vespa scooter with his friend behind him, and when they pulled into the compound of Jason and Mark, two acquaintances, two friends of theirs that they hadn't seen in a while, they were shocked to see the state that they were in. It looked like they had seen a ghost. And that's what I'm going to tell you about now. But if you're a fan of the dark and suspenseful told in story form, then surely you know who I'm trying to be right now. Mr. Ballin. Yeah. There's only one Mr. Ballin, but I couldn't think of a better way to tell this story than to do it like he does. So, here's the story. It was 1990. Place was Yogyakarta, Indonesia, central Java. Now, Jogja is a very old city that's full of mystical properties, in a way, emanating from the volcano. And on the way there was the compound of some new friends of mine, Mark and Jason. I'm sorry, Kevin. Mark and Kevin. But these two guys, they were older than me. They were in their 30s, maybe 40s, and had come to Jogja from Alaska, where they lived and worked. Mark, as an entrepreneur, he owned a jewelry business where he sold silver, mostly jewelry, to the many tourists who would come into peninsular Alaska on their cruise ships looking to buy native silver jewelry, which Mark was having made there in Indonesia. See, that town, Yogyakarta, is also a hub of the crafts, the arts and crafts business and silversmithing, and they'll take any design that you can give them and they'll make it for you and do a good job, and the handiwork and the silver and everything is cheaper there. So he was there along with his friend Kevin, who was the designer of the jewelry, to have his inventory replenished. And they were taking 6 months to do it, and moved in to a compound up in the hills with let's say about 1 acre, and it had 2 buildings on it. When I pulled into their complex that day, I could tell something was wrong. Kevin was sitting on his porch with his hands in his head in his hands, looking like he had seen a ghost. And over in the other building, there were separate buildings in this complex, there was Mark kind of pacing back and forth, seemingly talking to himself. They looked like they were in a bad state. What's going on? What's happening here? Well, as I said, they were living out in the countryside, and around this compound was rice paddies, fields, and it was there that they noticed the first oddity of their encounter. Every night, at exactly 1:32 a.m., the sounds of the frogs and the crickets and the loud orchestra that is rice paddy in Southeast Asia, everything would go silent. Every night, 1:30 a.m., 1:32. Mark reported that one night when that happened, he looked out his window and saw floating across the yard of the compound a figure, a ghostly, white, kind of vague creature. It came to a head on that October night when, at 1:30 in the morning, 1:32, dong, 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 there's a pounding at Kevin's door. It's 2 separate houses. Kevin gets up, goes to the door. This is Mark. He opens the door. Nobody there. But he feels something sneak in front of him and dart into the house. What's that? He turns on all the lights, looks around, finds nothing. After a while, he was able to calm down, and I think he must have been imagining it. Got back into bed. And then just as he was closing his eyes, he felt something in the bed with him. His feet kicked out and touched the leg of this other thing. It was ice cold. He reached out and grabbed its head, with both hands, and it was this bald, frozen head in this, and in the darkness of the bedroom, he yelled, "Ah!" and it took off. It disappeared. It jumped out of the bed and went out the door. And just about that same time, Mark wakes up in his building, thinking that the volcano had erupted because the house was shaking. But as he kind of came to his senses, he realized that the pounding was not coming from everywhere, coming from the volcano. It was coming from outside the house, on the walls. This loud noise was coming in a circular pattern, like something was running on the outside of the wall, on the wall, or pounding on the wall as it went around. And it came to a window that had shutters on it, and he heard something scratching at the window. He didn't go out and check it out. Kevin was freaked out, and they were quite actually horrified by this and were ready to leave. Well, it was the next day that they told people about what had happened, and they got in touch with a dukun. Now, a dukun in Central Javanese culture is like a shaman, a spiritualist, a medium. And given that they were so close to the volcano, ghosts were a problem around here. That's where they all came from, is from the volcano and spirits. And he says, I feel I can protect you from this thing. So the dukun spend the night. Staying for hours before 1:30 came along. He was chanting to himself. And at 1:32, the thing returned. Now, I don't get too much detail with this part of the story. Suffice to say that the dukun and the creature battled. And it was the shaman who overpowered this creature and chased it around Mark's building, and to the point where he tried to scratch his way in the night before, and he had it cornered. And the thing had no place to go but to go down. And you can look, and then it went into the earth, and away it went. And the dukun said, I'll be spending the night here again tonight, and so Mark and Kevin told me this story, and I could tell that this had actually happened. They weren't pulling my leg. This was something that they experienced. Now, was it a ghost? Was it real? I don't know. Certainly they thought it was. After they told me this story, as I said, I was on my way up to the mountain to check out the touristy stuff up there. I went up there and kind of thought like, this is really very exciting. I want to find out more about what's going on there. So I went back down to this house, and by that time, the dukun had come over, and I met the guy, and he seemed on the up and up, and seemed like a wise old man. And I went around to see where this spot was, where this thing had gone into the earth, and I got to see with my own eyes, yes, it was freshly dug earth at the base of the foundation of the house, and over it, crosses had been painted because Mark was nominally Christian, and that's his belief system. And I could see on the shutters, that was right underneath it, yes, there were big claw marks, larger than a human hand could do, but some kind of, I think it was like 4, maybe about 2 inches apart. Now, was that a ghost? I don't know. But it was also reported to me that the property owner, the landlord of this estate, was a powerful man, was a rich and powerful man, who he was rumored to have engaged the help of demons. And that every couple of years, someone in his family or in this circle, or maybe one of his clients, would mysteriously disappear or die. And people said, he's feeding the spirit that gives him his luck and wealth. And maybe Kevin and Mark were intended to be the creature's next victim. Or maybe he was just trying to scare him off. If they said they paid a lease on this property, and in Indonesia's standard is pay the entire amount of the lease for the 6 months or 1 year up front in advance. And it's not refundable. If you bug off and leave the place, you're not going to get your money back. So maybe he was going to repurpose it and use it for something else and just make pure profit off of Mark and Kevin. I don't know. We lost touch. This is before the internet, and I don't know where they are now. Maybe, hopefully, they'll see this, or better yet, Mr. Ballin will make a video out of it, and then really more likely to see it. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, push like, subscribe, all that good stuff.